I'm going to click Edit and Add, and I'm just going to type in SA, and this check names. It's going to search, and the only thing I have in Active Directory user or group that starts with SA is this sales group. So I'm going to click OK for that. That's my sales group. Now I can set the level of permissions I want them to have. If I want them to just have read access, read and write, full control, whatever your needs dictate. But that would be the purpose of a group. If I have multiple users that need access to the same shared folder or same application, it's too tedious to individually assign permissions to users. That is never recommended. Instead, you would always create a group, add the users as members of that group, then you simply assign permissions to the group. So that would be our group purpose. But if we go back to Active Directory, so that's a brief overview of the user account itself and the group. The other thing we want to touch on is the computer account. If I go back to computers, I have no computers joined to my domain right now. The typical way a computer is added to the domain is from the computer itself. We'll go to our client machine and we'll join that client machine to the domain. When we do that, it automatically creates a computer object, is what it's called. This computer object, by default, goes under this computer's container. So let's take a look at that from the client point of view and see if we can get a computer joined to our rts.local domain. Be sure to check out my other courses I have hosted on the Udemy website. I have about 30,000 students. I have courses that range from Azure Administration to Azure Fundamentals, PowerShell courses, security, Hyper-V. I also have courses that cover server administration, group policy, and Active Directory. These courses are some of the best sellers on the Udemy website, so be sure to check them out. The link is in the description below. So now I'm on a different machine, and I want to take this computer and join it to the rts.local domain. The things we need to check. I'm going to go to Start, and I'm going to open Control Panel. And in Control Panel, I'm going to go to System. Now the reason I use Control Panel and System is because it is consistent across all Microsoft operating systems. You could be on Windows Vista, which no one would use, Windows 8, 8.1, 10, server operating systems. If you go to Control Panel, you're always going to have this computer name, domain, workgroup show up here. So you can see my computer is currently named RTSCL1. That's what I want. And right now, it's in a workgroup. So that is what we want to change. I'm also going to check the network settings. So I'm going to right-click my little network icon here and open Network and Sharing Center. And I'm going to click on Ethernet. And I'm just going to go to the properties. TCP/IP version 4. And you can see my IP address is already defined. 172.16.0.11. That's the configuration I want on this machine. And if you remember, 172.16.0.10 is the IP address of my domain controller, the RTSDC1, which is also a DNS server. So that's already correct. So all I'm going to do is join this to the domain. On this change settings, I'm just going to go to change. And I'm going to select member of domain. And I'll just type in the name of the domain, which is rts.local. That'll prompt me for credentials for the rts.local domain. So I'm going to use my administrator and the password for that account. We'll just click OK. That says welcome to the domain. So I'm just going to click OK, and this machine will reboot, and now it's a member of a domain. So we'll say close and restart now. As this restarts, we're going to switch back to our domain controller.
Hey, has the code shipped?
Sure, Carl's on it.
Where's Carl? Where's Carl?
ang mga episode only on the Lazada app.
So as the other machine reboots, this computer's container we looked at just a moment ago was blanking. If I click refresh, you can see RTS-CL1 now shows up as a member of the domain. So I have my computer joined to the domain, so it can now be managed through Active Directory. I have my user, Bob Ross, so the user account can be managed through Active Directory. If you are in an environment with thousands of users, all your users have been added to Active Directory in a similar fashion. All the computers your users actually use have been added to Active Directory in a similar fashion. Pretty fascinating and very straightforward. Now, the other thing we want to touch on is how this gets organized. I'm going to click on my domain, rts.local. Notice when you look at this, if I slide some of these over a little bit so it's a little easier to read. Notice under type, some of these say container, and only one of these says organizational unit. And if you look at the icon, notice the ones that say container, they have this blank folder icon. The one organizational unit, which is domain controllers, it has this little icon in the center of the folder. So that's supposed to be a book in the center of the folder. The difference between a container and an organizational unit, the primary difference, an organizational unit allows you to apply group policies to it. Group policy gives me more than 3,000 settings that I can use to manage computer accounts and user accounts. Now, containers are created by default. The user's container is present and it has some default accounts in it. The computer's container is always present, and by default, when you join a computer to the domain, that's where it shows up in Active Directory. But what we do to structure this is we create organizational units. An example, I'm going to right click my domain and I'm going to go to new organizational unit. Now, how you structure these organizational units, that is different from company to company. So there is not a right or wrong way. It would be very specific to exactly your organizational needs. But the common ways you see this are based on location and based on department. For example, let's say I have a location in Atlanta. I'm going to create an organizational unit named Atlanta. So I'm going to click OK for that. And I also have a location in Boston. I'm going to right click my domain again. New organizational unit. This one I'm going to name Boston. So every location I have offices, I could create an organization unit to represent those locations, to organize these objects. Well, under Atlanta, I'm going to create an OU, like a child OU. Sometimes it's referred to as a sub-OU. But I'm going to name this one users. So if you are a user and you are in Atlanta, your account goes to this location. I'm going to create another for computer accounts. So new organizational unit, computers. Again, how you structure this depends on what your needs are. Very often, you'll see under Atlanta, you'll see like a sales OU, a marketing OU. So it depends on what your needs are. These organizational units, which are almost always referred to as OUs, because it simply takes too long to say organizational unit. But the easiest way to think of this, and you will never be confused, think of it like a folder. If you create a folder on your desktop and you named it My Personal Finances, why would you do that? Two reasons. You want to take all your personal financial documentation and you want to put it in a single folder so it's organized for you. That's reason one, organization of like items or like objects. The other reason, you want to centrally manage it. You put all your financial documents into the folder, you can then apply permissions to the folder to say, I'm the only one that can access this folder. You determine permissions and organize like objects together. Everywhere in Microsoft you see a folder icon, it serves the same purpose. Group like objects together, and then you centrally manage those objects. What I mean by that, I'm going to click this users and I could right click and move is an option. And I could select like my Atlanta users. I'm gonna click cancel there. Usually what I do is just click and drag. And I can drag Bob to that users. Now when I click on this users organizational unit, Bob Ross shows up there. I could go to the computers container for my RTS-CL1. I could drag that to the Atlanta computers. You'll see some environments will have a computers OU like this, and under it they'll have a child OU for desktops, another for laptops. So how it's structured depends on really the environment you're actually in. But as I said earlier, one of the key considerations is applying group policy objects. Group policy is how we manage all these settings. So, an example, I right now have an OU named domain controllers. I have an Atlanta with the users and computers OU under and a Boston OU. All the others are containers, like this users container, computers container. What I'm going to do is go back to my server manager. And in server manager, I'm going to go to tools. And under tools, I'm going to click on group policy management. Under this group policy management, I'm going to expand my forest. I'm going to expand my domains. And I'm going to expand RTS.local. I'm also going to put this in full screen so it's easier to see. But notice, you don't see the users container. You don't see the computers container show up here. What we're getting is the organization. So I have Atlanta with the computers users OU under it, and I have the Boston and domain controllers over it. None of the containers show up here. So what does that mean? It means you cannot directly create a policy and apply it to that location. Now, to look at a few interesting settings in a policy, I'm going to set the wallpaper and I want to define some power settings. But before we do that, we want to verify how our other system looks right now. So I'm going to switch back to that RTS-CL1.
Gano'n ba kita ka mga ganito o ganito?
No, Ma. Ganito.
Ang pagmamahal.
Kasi, lagi ang pinipili paborito ko.
Love my kids ang taste ng Eden. May milk vitamins at calcium pa. Kaya dito naging ang goodness.
Ma, alam mo ba kung gano'n kita ka-love? Eh di, ganito.
So on my RTS-CL1, I'm going to log in as that Bob Ross, or B Ross was the username. And I'm going to enter the password. It says user's password must be changed before signing in because we left that checkbox set, you'll remember? I'm going to say okay, because I have to reset it. And I'm going to type in a new password. And we'll just sign in. That password is actually now changed in Active Directory. Now Bob Ross is signed on. Two things I want to show you. Now, the reason I show you this is just so it's clear that we have managed some of these settings through policy. When this comes up, notice the wallpaper is the default Windows wallpaper. And I'm also going to right-click Start, and I'm going to choose Power Options off the Start menu. And under Power Options, I have this balance and high performance, my power plans they are. And if I click this down arrow to show additional, there is only this power saver that shows up. I'm actually going to click this chain settings that are currently unavailable, just so they're a little easier to see. They're not like hidden. But I only have 3. We are going to change that through policy. So I'm going to switch back to our other machine, the domain controller. I'm back on my domain controller. What I've actually done is copy over a wallpaper I just downloaded from the internet, and I also am going to set the power options. So the first thing I'm going to do, on my desktop here, I'm just going to, for demo purposes, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to name it Wallpaper. I'm going to right-click the folder. I'm going to go to Properties, and on this Sharing tab, I'm just going to click Advanced Sharing and select Share this folder, and OK. I'm not going to change permissions or anything like that on the Sharing tab. And on the Security tab, I'm just going to click Edit and Add, and I'm going to put this Authenticated Users. So I'm going to type AUTH, just click Check Names. That does a quick search, and I'll see Authenticated Users is here in the list. So I'm just going to choose that Authenticated Users and OK, and OK. And you'll see that has like read, execute, list folder contents. That's fine. Then Authenticated Users, anyone that logs in will have read access. That's what we want. So I'm going to OK that and close. And I'm going to take this orange wallpaper and I'm going to drag it into that shared folder. So now that folder is network accessible. I'm going to switch back to my policy management console, and I'm going to do two things. Under this Atlanta OU, I have this users OU I created. I'm going to right-click that OU, and there's an option to create a GPO from the policy object in this domain and link it here. I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to name this GPO Wallpaper. Just OK that. And now, if I expand users, this wallpaper shows up. Get rid of some of these pop-ups here. I'm going to right-click that wallpaper, GPO, and edit. Now, there are more than 3,000 settings in this policy. So much so, I have a dedicated course just that covers group policy, a separate dedicated course that just covers active directory. But for the wallpaper, kind of a basic setting we can define, under my user configuration, I'm going to click Policies, Administrative Templates. I'm going to expand Desktop, pull this over a bit, and there's this desktop folder under it. And there is Desktop Wallpaper. All I need to do is specify the path for that wallpaper. So I'm going to click Enable, and I'm going to type in the shared path command, or UNC path is what it's known as, but most people call it share. //RTS-DC1 /wallpaper /oranges.jpg. Now, I don't want this centered, so I'm going to set this to 50, just so it consumes the entire desk. I'm going to drag it up so I can click the OK button. So that should set the wallpaper under this GPO, and that GPO is linked to the Atlanta users. If there are 1,000 users under this OU, 1,000 users now will have that wallpaper set. Now I'm going to go to the computers under Atlanta. I'm going to create another GPO. And I'm going to name this one Power Settings. I'm going to right-click that GPO and edit. For this one, I'm going to expand my computer configuration, preferences, control panel settings. You'll see under control panel settings, there's the power options. So I'm going to right-click that, and I'm going to create a new power plan that releases Windows 7. So Windows 7 is new. This is the power plan you would create. Under Actions, I'm going to choose Create, and I'm going to name this power plan Exploration Notes. Now, I don't want to actually have this be the active power plan on my system, so I'm not going to click this Set as the active power plan. I'm going to leave that selected. But just remember we named this Go Group, and I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to close that GPO. If there are 1,000 computers under this computers OU here, 1,000 computers now have this power plan. Now let's take a look to see if that actually has taken effect.
Celebrate all kinds of love. Sa Lazada 22 February Big Fest, sulit tipid ka. Sa fast and free shipping at sa patong-patong na discounts. Sulit tipid sa Lazada, ang saya na abot kaya.
I'm back on my RTS CL1 machine. So I have the wallpaper we started with, and I don't have the power options. Now what you can do many times is you can actually type GP update and many things will take effect. I'm actually going to do that right now. Well, I'm going to show you one thing before I do that. I'm going to click power options. And I'm going to choose that change settings that are currently unavailable, just so it's easier to see. But notice I only have the 3 options. We refresh, still the 3 options. What I'm going to do is right click and go to run, and in run I'm going to type GP update. GP update just tells my computer, go back to the domain controller and check for any updates to any policies. So I'm going to click OK for that. And it says updating policy. And in a moment, it's going to say computer configuration. It's updated. It's going to reference user configuration. So there I can see the computer side's already done. User side's done. If we refresh this view now, it's like magic. My Go Green shows up in the list. Now what's interesting is the wallpaper did not change. Some settings can be updated in the background. Some settings require you to either reboot the machine, if it's a computer setting. Some user settings require you to simply log off and log back on. The background does not update in the background, or I should say the wallpaper does not upgrade in the background. It requires me to sign out, sign back in. So we're going to do that. But we see the power setting has already taken effect through policy. So the system here, I'm just going to sign out and sign right back in. And I'm going to sign back in as B-Ross with my same password. We have a lovely wallpaper. Okay, maybe not lovely, but we know our policy work because my wallpaper is now a bunch of oranges. So very similar to how you kind of manage your own local machine. I can go to group policy and I can manage 3,000 plus settings across all the computers in my entire domain. That could be tens of thousands of computers. You can dictate wallpaper. If I want to block USB drives, numerous settings. If you can think of it, you can pretty much manage it, restrict it through policy. So we know our client machine is configured, joined to the domain, everything's working. Now earlier, I did also say that Active Directory is a database server. I'm gonna, on my domain controller, I'm just gonna go through File Explorer. And in File Explorer, I'm gonna navigate through this PC to the C drive, the Windows folder. There is a folder named NTDS in that list. If we click that, this ntds.dip, 20 megs in size, that is the Active Directory database file. You'll see some log files also show up here. But every user account you create, every computer account, groups, organizational units, all that lives in that ntds.dip database file. So to summarize this, Active Directory is a role we installed on Windows Server. Once you install it, the machine it's installed on is now referred to as a domain controller. The benefits of Active Directory is centralized administration. I create policies that allow me to manage all my users, all my computers, and the other is centralized authentication. I no longer go out to individual computers and create user accounts or reset passwords. All that is done in Active Directory on the domain controller. Now, as we saw earlier, you should have at a minimum 2 domain controllers. What's very neat in Active Directory is Active Directory actually replicates all of its objects. So if I do have two domain controllers, I could create my user like I did Bob on one domain controller. That user then replicates to the other, so you never double your work. If I disable a user count on one, the fact that it's disabled gets replicated to the other domain controllers. So it does not matter where you make a change, it replicates to your other domain controllers. Now this is intended to serve as an overview, just to give you an understanding of Active Directory. If you want to check out additional courses I have, look at the links below and you can take a deep dive through some of these topics. If you want to learn more, visit us on the web at rtsnetworking.com/demo, where we have free demo videos, and I also have courses on sale for as low as $9.99 covering various Microsoft topics. Be sure to check out my other courses I have hosted on the Udemy website. I have about 30,000 students. I have courses that range from Azure Administration to Azure Fundamentals, PowerShell courses, security, Hyper-V. I also have courses that cover server administration, group policy, and Active Directory. These courses are some of the best sellers on the Udemy website, so be sure to check them out. The link is in the description below.
Try Elite 3X and get extra savings.
This might work. This might work. Let me know that. Setting up the...
Kailangan mo pang sinuot sa bulat ng karayom.
Yep, yep. It should be good. It should be good. It should be good, right? Guys, okay. Yeah, we're live. We're live. Yeah, we're live. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Donnie from Jobs Share, and today we're starting a round 2 of IT skills. That's what I mean. So basically, if you are joining in right now, like, you know, probably want to know what's going on. We are a community of me, Kevin, and our other friends like that, other people, other members. They're all part of this business. In this community, we do different random things. And the community is extremely live, like it has to be work with each other. If somebody gets a job, they say, hey, I got a job, and this is how I got the job, and then we learn this. Got the job. If somebody gets rejected, they also come back and they say, hey, this is what happened, this is what happened, and then we encourage that person, help them out, and we get help ourselves. We are IT professionals ourselves, so there's nobody who's an expert level, not an expert level. We are all working with each other. This is what makes this extremely strong. And very powerful, and that's where if you're not a part of this community, I'm not and that's the first thing I did. Kaiba will post a link in the chat, and she can this type of stuff. If you have any questions or anything, please ask in the chat box. She will post a link in the
Kailangan talaga hindi ka mahiyain, kumbaga makakalbas na
other people like Kevin Bag, they're all part of this. Yes, so what are we doing today? We're actually going to round 2 of first, testing those.
Sa pag-vlog kasi kailangan hindi talaga
Today, you might but not too much. But this technique, when I say that they have to go back to your machine, right? You're going to be like, okay, where was it that machine before? So you need
Sa
to
pag-vlog talaga, dapat talaga hindi ka mahiyain.
make this super friendly for yourself.
Kailangan talaga makapalamukha mo, ganon.
That job, you say that, and I do very technically. Or the more we're going to add to this round, this is going to be the perfect. That's exactly either we're going to answer or that's exactly what we need to take.
Eh, sa kagaya ko nga medyo mahiyain.
Okay, Abdul, are you ready for the test? Abdul, are you there? I was born ready, man. I like this because when I asked you for the first time and we just randomly went into the community, are like, hey, who's ready? Who wants to be on the hot seat? He's like, hey, I'm ready. You know, I can do this. I'm all ready. So we tested it and we passed the first test now. So
admin, whatever it's called.
Oh, moderator. Okay. So there you go. You're a moderator.
Today we're choosing violence and we're attacking that ship. Oh, only one time. It's okay, we'll do it one more time.
Ang hirap din kaya mag-video na mag-isa ka lang.
Hello everyone, how are you doing? This is MT Tech here with another quick tutorial. In today's tutorial, I'll show you guys how to enable your wireless network adapter on Windows 7. This will also work for Windows 8 and Windows 10 as well. Pretty similar process. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So we're going to begin by opening up the Start menu just by left clicking on the Start button one time. And you're going to type in Device Manager. That's mentioned underneath the control panel. You should take Device Manager there. Left click on that one time. Device Manager. Now you want to expand the network adapter section right here. So either double click on it or left click on the little arrow next to it. There should be a network adapter listed in here. Right click on that and then left click on enable. So keep in mind all we're doing in this tutorial is enabling our network adapter so you can see down below right for network access. If you do not have access to any network, that's not really what the issue in this tutorial is addressing. The issue is that it disabled. So there's other methods we can go through as well. So if you're still in technology with your network, close out of here. I recommend going back to Start menu, type in CNC, program should go back to CNC here, right click on it, left click on Browse Administrator, look at your TV user code, open down, yes. Okay, so now this elevated inline window, you want to type in IP config space /flash DNS, exactly that appears on my screen. Then you want to hit enter. It should say successfully flashed DNS resolver cache. Now you want to type in NETSH space sound